Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Mathijs. I am the co founder of a company called Reach Outstanding. And within that, we have a brand called monicamahi.com, which centers on leading with awareness, creating the mindful organization, and very much focused on how can we help organizations and their people to have an experience at work which is focused on the best possible experience a member of staff can have in terms of psychological safety, in terms of feeling safe, supported, and secure in the workplace. First of all, I would like to thank Emirates HR for inviting me here to speak today. Leading with awareness is a topic I'm hugely passionate about, and I find it deeply important. And today we're going to start to touch on those elements of what leading with awareness means. It is a vast topic, and because it's a vast topic, there's so much that we can continue to talk about in the future. So today I'll talk about what it is, what it means to lead with awareness, and how organizations, individuals can start to take conscious steps and make conscious efforts in terms of their staff, their managers, their leaders to start to move forward and move forward with that sense of knowingness and that sense of awareness. Before we kick off, I wanted to share a quote by William W. George. And this is something he said during a Q&A session with Harvard Business School. He said this: mindfulness is the state of being fully present, aware of oneself and other people, and sensitive to one's reactions to stressful situations. Leaders who are mindful tend to be more effective in understanding and relating to others and motivating them towards shared goals. Hence, they become more effective in leadership roles. I wanted to talk a little bit more about my own journey, who I am, where I've come from. In 2016, I had a transformational experience. I went on a 10-day silent retreat. And during that time, I realized that I was full of various thoughts, stresses, that everything that was going on around me was affecting me in some shape or another, be it my mind always being active, be it pain in the body, and just that general feeling of not being content. So during those 10 days, I had to connect with myself. I couldn't talk to another person. I couldn't even make eye contact with another human being. I had to eat in silence. I had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to meditate all the way until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And that inspired me to become a meditation teacher. And then I embarked on that journey to understand more about spirituality, mindfulness, why we do the things that we do. And and then I became a meditation teacher. I trained with someone called David G. Spent time in Carlsbad, California, an amazing, beautiful place to really connect. And we would wake in the morning and see dolphins. And this is something which I had never experienced before. So this journey has really exposed me to different elements of life and also about myself. One of the things that I really learned and one of the things I really understood was that we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts. So let's imagine that we're constantly thinking, we're constantly running things through our minds, and most likely it's regrets of the past, worries about the future, all of those kinds of things, which in a way they don't help us because it's about being mindful about our thoughts. And then I realized that through meditation, through mindfulness, that we can start to give our brains a break, like really give our brains and our minds some rest and allow those thoughts that are not serving us to slowly like just melt away. And I also learned about an inner knowingness, and that no matter how crazy the world is around me, that I do feel supported. We all go through life changes, and those life changes can be anything from changing jobs, relationship issues, moving to a new country. It could be an illness, all the way through to embarking on a personal transformation. And with these changes comes stress, with it comes the pressure, the fear, and the anxiety. So for me, it is important to know and understand how we are impacted by the things that are going around us so that then we can acknowledge what's going on within our minds, within our bodies, to then start to understand ourselves better. So fast forward to today, here I am talking to you about my experience, but what does that all mean and how am I using that and leveraging that today? We spend so much of our lives at work. And what the pandemic has showed us is that people have that need for support and security from their employers. Leading with awareness is about leaders, organizations, employers, managers really getting to understand the way they behave, the way they operate, the way that they react to others, so that they do come from a place of understanding, insight, and care. From my own experiences, I've experienced different types of managers, different types of leaders. I remember a time when there would be a manager who everyone would be really fearful of because of their approach, because of the way that they would come into the office and bring with them attention, which would then affect all of us. And there would be fear, there would be anxiety. People would be worried to speak up in front of this manager. And even in meetings, no one would speak out about anything that was going on because they were fearful. At the other end of the spectrum, I've worked with leaders who have been inspiring, leaders who have put their people first, put them on that platform to showcase them, to grow them, to help them evolve, and giving them that real platform to be who they want to be, and at the same time still contribute to the workplace, still offer the things that we need to be doing as part of our day-to-day job, yet doing it in a way which is progressive, which helps us learn, which helps us grow. For anyone who's worked in a high stress environment and being put under scrutiny, we know that there are stresses and pressures and challenges of working in any organization. But what many people have found is that the organizations are not giving them that platform and that support that they also need. Because we need to look at ourselves and as employees and staff members holistically. They have lives outside of work, yet because they spend so much time at work, they do need their employers to give that support, to give that safety, to give that means for them to feel part of something greater. And this is where leadership and management requires a change or requires a shift, which is to say, people come to work for more than being told what to do. They come for a purpose, they come for value, they come for that psychological safety to be who they truly want to be. I'm going to share a presentation now. So, just to talk a little bit more about leading with awareness, our company, and more about that whole thought process, how we feel inside, and how that reflects to the outer world as well. So, as I mentioned, leading with awareness is about reflecting on leadership styles and where we can make changes to better serve ourselves and to better serve others. Because once we understand ourselves, we can go out into the world with that greater insight, that greater understanding, and maybe an even richer experience because of having gone through that journey. The reason this is so important to me is because I bring together my two passions. One is all about mindful living, really paying attention, noticing, observing, being conscious about everything that's going on around me, be it through observation or sensing things, listening, watching, all of those kinds of things. And combining that with the corporate world, because ultimately that's been my experience over the last 20 years, having worked for big four consulting firms, having worked for global banks across the UK and now the UAE. And why is this so important to me? Is because, like I said, we spend so much time at work, and it's about that safety, it's about being cared for, and it's about feeling supported. Now, let's break this down further into who we are as individuals. So, I'm a person, you're a person, and we are not just our thoughts, we are not just our external reactions, we are holistic. So, when we look at an individual, we have to look at them in their entirety. So, what is going on as a member of staff, as a leader, as a manager? What can I do to start to understand myself? So we can do this by starting to look at those internal reflections. What is going on inside me? What's going on in here, and what are those things? So it's about starting to reflect on those thoughts. What kinds of things am I thinking? Am I thinking negative thoughts all the time, and then they come out in a negative way when I'm interacting with others? How am I talking to myself often? Um, we are our own biggest critics, and self talk, if it's negative, it can have a detrimental effect in terms of how we feel about ourselves and then, therefore, how we go about our day to day lives. So, really paying attention to that self talk. And then the self reflection, depending on what's happened, if I've had a good day, I've had a bad day, or there was a situation that I could have handled better, as an example, how am I reflecting on those situations? What am I learning from them? How would I do things differently? So that's all about looking at things from a self reflective point of view. And then that leads to self understanding. So, for example, why did I do something, or why did I behave in that way? So, I then start to understand the reasons. And it could be because I had a headache, and then therefore it came out in that way. Or I didn't have enough sleep, and therefore I was a bit grumpy and I took it out on the people around me. So once we start to understand the reasons, then we can actually start to tackle all those things. And then they eventually lead to the mindset that we want to have. If we're willing to go through this journey of understanding ourselves better and wanting to have an enhanced version of who we are, then we're moving towards a growth mindset. We're thinking about making our lives better and then the lives of those around you better as well. So that's about the internal reflection. So that's what's going on in here, what's going on in here. Let's move that forward. Now, what happens when I go into the outside world? What are my external reactions? So I've touched on those a little bit. And it could be about our behaviors. How am I interacting with you? If I'm having a bad day and I'm a bit curt, or normally I'm really chirpy and I'm a happy go lucky person, but because I'm going through a bad time, or I'm going through uncertainty or worry or fear, I may not be as talkative as I normally am. So those are how I would behave. And then also, what are our habits and our actions? So, what are the things that I'm doing? If I say I want to be something, are my habits and actions actually mirroring that? Are they reflecting that? Are they coming across in that way to the external world? And then our reactions. So it could be that you go through that process of internal reflection, you start to understand yourself, and you realize that if you've had a bad day at home and you bring it to work, that your reactions are then impacting the people around you. And then once you go through that journey, then you can start to look at how you can change your reactions. And it could be something as simple as, actually, I've got a really bad headache today. That's why, please bear with me. Most likely your staff members will appreciate you sharing that vulnerability, and therefore understand if you are off with them. What is your communication style like? And your communication style is not only how you speak, it's also about the way that you project your verbal and non-verbal. What tone are you using? How are you talking to people? What body language are you displaying to others? And remember that people, when they look at someone speaking and when they hear someone speaking, they're not only listening to the words, they're looking at the whole thing. So communication style is important. And within that comes active listening. It comes the whole, how good am I at giving other people a platform to communicate, share, and express. And then that will lead to our approach, like who we are, what we represent, and what we're trying to be to the external world. So as you can see, I've gone through it quite quickly. As you can see that there is that internal thing that's going on within us, and it reflects out on the outer side as our reactions. And once we start to understand what we do, why we do it, then we can start to create shifts. We can start to create tweaks to give a better experience to others, and also to better give ourselves the chance to be who we want to be as well. As part of leading with awareness, I've created a model. It's called the empathic R model, and it's made up of 9 elements. And these 9 elements are all aspects of what someone who leads with awareness could possess or can possess. Now, you may not have to have everything. Many people maybe will pick a few of these elements and start to focus on those areas which resonate with them or which they feel are important to them. So the 9 areas are empathy, mindset, purpose, awareness, tolerance, honesty, intelligence, as in emotional intelligence, cultural awareness, and finally, relationships. I've got more information on the empathic R model, which I can share for anyone who's interested and wants to know more. So what happens? So the way I go about doing things is when I go into organizations, my base point will be the empathic R model. And what that means is I would look at the various elements of an organization and ask them what they want to do to build upon this empathic R model. What areas do they want to build across their staff members, across their managers, across their leaders? And then they become the building blocks. And those building blocks then include things such as initiatives, drives, events, mentoring and coaching. And all of these things then help enhance the whole empathic R model, then helps the organization move forward with that sense of insight, understanding, and awareness. I wanted to bring leading with awareness to life a little bit more, and I wanted to illustrate it through a couple of examples. So, leading with awareness is about individuals starting to understand themselves and their behaviors. So, why do I react with annoyance with one person versus another? What is it about what's going on within me about that annoyance? So, it's looking at that, it's looking at why am I doing things? Another thing could be I'm in a meeting or I'm speaking to a member of staff, how is the way that I speak to those around me impacting them and their experiences at work? So it's going back to that, am I giving people enough time? Am I talking to them in a direct and robotic way and all I'm being is a task manager versus am I being inspiring? Am I being motivating? Am I giving them the best of me? And often these are questions which we actually find quite difficult to answer, to reflect upon, because change is difficult, and especially when we have to change ourselves. So, this whole leading with awareness, that whole drive, that whole mindset and approach behind it is about giving ourselves a chance to really learn, grow, and evolve. I wanted to share 5 tips today with you on the things that you can start to do to get that sense of awareness and also start to make small shifts in the things that you do that could potentially help, enhance, and drive a change for the positive. And the first thing is from an individual perspective. So it's all about personally, what can you start doing? And you've got the empathic R model available to you now. And one of the great things that you can do is look at the various elements and ask yourself, what do you want to focus on? And it could be something that you're good at and you want to be better at, or it could be something that you realize that you don't have and you want to build upon it. And then start going on that journey to look at what you can do. And the things you can do could be anything like um, start a course, do some reading. There are some great books out there on topics from empathy, growth mindset to emotional intelligence, and start to reach out to experts and people in the fields who can give that support and give that direction. The next tip number two, you may already be having meetings with your staff. And one of the things that came out of COVID was that people wanted that interaction, they wanted that time with their managers because their managers are not around and walking the floor in the office. So if you have one-to-one meetings already, you can create like a blended meeting approach. So you can have part of your discussion which focuses on work, and the other part can be more about the personal side of things. How are you doing? Have you got any challenges? And as a manager or as a leader, you can start to actually express what's going on with you and within your life. So, for example, if you're struggling with things, you can actually be really raw and really honest about it because it will encourage your staff to do the same thing. My third tip is all about storytelling. Now, the reason why TED talkers and other inspirational leaders are able to connect with the people around them is because they take them on an emotional journey. And what I mean by that is they use the power of storytelling, their experiences, how they overcame something, how they dealt with something to connect with people. And then people will be able to see the genuine side of you. And when they see that genuine side of you, they'll see that they also can be vulnerable, that they also can start sharing their experiences. And this can be anything from if you're struggling because you're working from home or with childcare, all the way through to if you're just generally worried about what's going on in the world right now. If they can see that you're worried, then they can share that with you. And people aren't really looking for answers, they just want a sounding board. And that in itself can add huge value to a conversation or a team meeting. Step four, the fourth tip I'm going to be offering today is all about communication. And I touched on it previously, and it's about the verbal and non-verbal communication. Often people don't share what they're saying through the words. Yeah, if you're able to tune into the non-verbal cues, those micro expressions, that body language, you'll be able to see what's really going on. And I'll give you an example. If I'm in on a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting and suddenly I'm looking at my phone, not paying attention, then you can use that as an opportunity to speak to your staff member and just say, or just ask, is everything okay? All the way through to if someone's shaking, all the way through to if someone is crossing their arms or looking up, or even their faces are starting to go red. It could be a reflection of something else that they're not saying. So then you can use the art of powerful questions to really scratch below the surface to find out what else is going on. My fifth and final tip is all about taking baby steps. And often, especially because it's January, it's the start of the new year, and people want to do everything and they like make that big list and they want to achieve everything really quickly. But what happens is that we get overwhelmed, we get bombarded, life kicks in, and then we realize that we can't do half of what we said we wanted to do. So when it comes to leading with awareness, by nature, it's about taking a phased approach, creating small shifts, baby steps that will actually create a shift, and a shift that lasts and can really help people in the long term and help you in the long term as well. And the other thing I wanted to add to that is about self care. It's really important to look after yourself as an individual, because when you look after yourself, then you can bring the best of you in various situations that you're in, whether it's at work or if it's at home. I wanted to share a little bit more about what we do as an organization and how we help companies. I'll just share my slides again to show a little bit more about what we do. Our approach is very much a consulting approach, and the ethos is that we partner with you. And what I mean by that is that we go on that journey with you. We really try to understand what's going on within your organization or what's going on within your team so that then you can start to take steps to move forward or take steps to achieve the goals that you're after. And we do that by understanding the current state, what's going on. And that can be through things such as assessments, surveys, interviews, doing a due diligence on various elements that you've identified as areas you want to focus on. And then we create a report, we present that back to you. And then from there, the initiatives and the deliverables can start to get moving, and by the end of it, we look at the results and how things have evolved. And part of that consulting approach is we then do business coaching. So we have a team of coaches, and they're experienced in the business world. They're experienced when it comes to the different elements of leading with awareness. And they would sit with the leaders, be it on an individual basis or a group basis, to really ask them and really understand where they want to go and help them get through that and help them achieve um, those final deliverables, those final goals that they are aspiring to achieve. And then the third way that we work with clients and we work with you is through learning programs. And that's things such as online self paced programs and also true blended learning, where we come into organizations and explain things such as elements of diversity, empathy, emotional intelligence. We also bring in experts to support staff on their journey. The other thing that we do is during the due diligence process, we really try to understand your people as individuals, because that's the crux of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to allow individuals to tap into who they are so that they can go out into the outside world with more awareness, more self understanding, and being more conscious in terms of how they react and behave. In the real world. And often, what we find is that when we do a due diligence, when we do an interview with a client, other things come to the surface. So, for example, someone may have sleep problems because they're stressed about work or they're stressed about life, or someone may feel that there are other things going on in their lives that they need to speak to a counselor or a professional. Because the work we do, we're not actually professionals in the sense of counseling or psychology and things like that. So what we do is we then put you in touch with experts, or we ask you to go out and see an expert in the area that you're finding challenging. So, for example, if it's a sleep expert or a counselor. The other thing that we speak to our clients about and what they often ask us, and that's to do with measuring. Obviously, everything is about understanding where you are today and where you want to go in the future. So, how do we measure that? And throughout that engagement, the thing that we do is we're constantly reviewing and we're constantly tracking. And on a regular basis, we provide feedback, we run the surveys again, we would even have small groups where, or forums where we would speak to people about their ideas. It could even be that people's goals have changed or they need to be shifted or tweaked slightly. So, due to the nature of how we work with our clients, we are able to flex to that and support them on their needs as we go along as well. Um, And we also provide reports, and because we use assessments, and some of those assessments are things such as Profile XD, 360-degree feedback, DISC profile, we'll actually use those results and we'll use those to track how people are progressing and what contribution they are continuing to make. And the other really key thing that we find, and this is something that all the studies show and articles on various platforms such as HBR or Forbes, what they show is that celebrating success is really important. So as your staff members progress on this program and during this whole project, one of the things that we really encourage is the celebration of those successes because it reinforces the changes that have been made. And it also allows other people in the organization to see that their managers and their leaders are going on a journey and that they are evolving. And those successes can be at a personal level. Someone may want to treat themselves with something, all the way through to the actual organization showcasing how people have succeeded or what they've learned, and also giving back to people and giving back to staff through things such as brown bag sessions, lunch and learn sessions, town halls, things like that. Throughout this whole process, our role is to inform, drive, educate, take our clients on the journey. The real hard work and the real push to create that change comes from you as individuals, because when you're willing to make that change, when you're committed to making that change, then you will see that change and that impact happen. I wanted to share more details on where you can get more information about what I've spoken about today as well. So you can download a free guide on leading with awareness, which explains more about what it is and the elements and how we work with clients. If you're interested in hearing what other leaders have got to say about leading with awareness, then you can go onto my YouTube channel. And I'll share details for that as well. So I'll just share some details about how you can get hold of me and contact me, and then feel free to reach out to me. As we wrap up today's session, I just want to thank you for your time and thanks for listening. If you're interested in the topics that I've talked about today, or you wish to learn more, or you want to download some information or receive articles and more details from me, please feel free to contact me. You can contact me at Monica Mahi at Thanks for your time today. If you have any questions or you wish to learn more, please feel free to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn under Monica Mahi, or you can contact me on monica@monicamahi.com. You can visit my website, monicamahi.com, and here are my two phone numbers for the UK and the UAE. I look forward to connecting with you, and please feel free to download a free guide on leading with awareness.